Welcome back to the Week in Advance. It's good to see you back, Christopher.
Yes, it's been quite a traveling intense spring break for both of us, and you started the cycle with running over to Arizona for a few days for spring break, and then I ran away to Tennessee, and then you went to Atlanta. So I think we should try to format ourselves so that we can meet in Paris in a couple of weeks and have that Eiffel Tower as a backdrop for our video.
Oh, it'll be excellent. We can drink some good coffee, hang out with some people, talk some astrology, and in the middle of all this energy in Aries, this cardinal cross that's forming, that'd be a good place to be in the middle of an intense cardinal cross.
Yes, it would be. It's very interesting that whenever the sun gets into Aries, people really feel that surge. It's like the winter's final passage is pretty much over, and now we've got this fresh breath of wanting to get out and have fun and explore and travel. And so the two travel signs in my mind, and of course, there are a lot of different astrologers have their own interpretations, but when I think of travel, I always think of Aries and Sagittarius. Those are the two great travelers, and Aries is a stimulant, wants to get you going, and Sagittarius says, oh, we need to go here and learn about that, with that desire to expand their understanding of the universe they are a part of. So we've got a lot of exciting things getting ready to happen as we're in the middle of Aries time.
Yeah, and we're coming off of a very powerful week where the sun came to highlight the tension of the cardinal cross that's about to form in the skies. And I feel that as we step into this Friday and weekend, we're coming out of a little bit of that tension. So I think there's definitely a lot to still process as the moon is still in Gemini, and it steps into Gemini for most of this weekend. As there's this Friday, Saturday of there's a lot to process of what has the universe unveiled to us here this week, because I believe that the universe has unveiled quite a lot of the new changes to make in life, the new direction to take. And as the sun squared Pluto and squared Jupiter, maybe it's time to leave old belief systems. Maybe it's time to leave, places that we must, kill and kind of rebirth. I think this is definitely a time of shedding off a lot of the old and stepping into a lot of the new. And there can be tension when it comes to that. And there could be a lot of little details, too, that we have to cover still.
Exactly. And one of the things I like looking at as we do advance into the weekend is we're watching the moon in Gemini, the great communicator, and that starts off the weekend with that moon at midpoint, about 15 degrees in Gemini on Friday, and people wanting to get their social calendar arranged, get everything straightened out for the coming week. Then we move into a beautiful, beautiful passage as we're watching the moon move into Cancer, and it's going to be first trining Neptune, and then it's going to be conjuncting Jupiter. And I think this weekend is going to be a real fourth chakra weekend. I think our hearts are going to be open. I think we're going to be looking for healing. We're going to be wanting to reach out and heal others. So I see this as a very emotionally rewarding weekend, especially for people who are taking a proactive approach and saying, hey, I want this weekend to be all about, love, all about expressing love in the most Jupiterian fashion that I can submit myself to. So very, very nice weekend passage coming up for us, I do believe.
Yeah, and it is still the moon covering this big cardinal cross, so I think the only way to access that positivity is your perception. I mean, if you're having limited beliefs or you're stuck in those emotional states, because this is going to be a moon in Cancer coming into, late Saturday into Sunday, and it's coming over Jupiter in Cancer, where this Jupiter, the only way to access this positivity is by really, stepping into positivity yourself, based off making sure you're not drowning your emotions out, because the moon is in a nice trine over to Saturn, and that's and over really still to all this beautiful Pisces energy. So even though there's tension, there's this nice grand trine, which is pay attention to your soul, pay attention to your inner self. Like, don't let the outer world get you too much there, buddy, kind of energy. Like, you know, it's like, remember that you have control from the inside. And I think that's a huge lesson this weekend, as there really is an optimism. And I believe that this cross and all the tension that's been in the skies is here to really make powerful dreams and, you know, really powerful new starts in your life to make, you know, move forward with. And if you can't stay positive and you can't open up your perceptions, then, you know, it's going to be difficult, I think.
Oh, it absolutely will be. Whenever we have a T-square going on in the heavens, you also look for the third party in this conflict between the opposition between, you know, Pluto in Capricorn, Jupiter in Cancer. So when you look at the way that all of this energy is being channeled out, is through Uranus, and the Sun is going to be conjunct Uranus, so or has just finished conjuncting Uranus. So we're going to see this Uranian aspect really getting activated over the weekend, and that's where the sudden opening of the heart can come from, because we do have, you know, the stress points aiming at that Uranian placement and at that placement of the Sun, and that basically is giving us kind of a serendipitous door-opening energy. And all of a sudden, something that's completely unexpected appears in your life. A person that you would never imagine yourself connecting with shows up, that sort of thing. And so, again, with a nice, harmonious kind of energy that this brings the potential of, it also is something that is going to manifest in a very unexpected way, and you have to be willing to grab the moment and run with it, and take that Uranian energy, you know, march to the beat of a different drummer, see the world from an alternative perspective for a few seconds, and your world can become transformed.
That's great that you brought up, especially this Uranus energy, because it's starting to get really high pressured. I mean, the Pluto-Uranus square is getting close to its exact energy. This is definitely a very rare transit to happen, although it's been happening since 2012 and it finishes in 2015. This is one of the, I would say, the most peaked out and most intense transits of the Pluto-Uranus square that we will have ever, because we're in the middle of this cross and Jupiter will be squaring it at the same time. So you're right. If you're trying to think that you know how the outcome's going to be, you're crazy, because it probably will not come anywhere out like this. That's one thing about Uranus. When you know it's involved, don't think you know, because you don't. It's always like, you know, like it's always going to be like way different than you think. But I think this weekend is about seeing how perception and beliefs and emotions and you know, kind of learning to go with the craziness will work for your benefit, and not be afraid. I think this is about extreme amount of fears, and especially as the Mercury is leaving Pisces this weekend and getting ready to come into Aries at the beginning of the week, there's a lot in our soul that we must understand. We must learn that our minds must learn to still go with the flow, must trust in spirit, must, you know, it must go along with things. And part of the things that we're forced to go along with is, you know what, the intense pressure to change our lives and take new roads that are built on a lot of pressure and unpredictable pressure, and how that could be a great thing.
It absolutely is a great thing, because without that element of surprise, life can become very, very trivial. And so when we see dynamic tension going on with the planets that bring surprises to our doorstep, and those would be Saturn and Mars and Uranus, all three of those planets, Mercury can also factor into that, but they are bringing freshness, or the potential of freshness, into our lives. One of the things that I have been very sensitive to is the ongoing movement of the nodes. And I know that's one of your favorite topics of discussion. Have you really been noticing how, now that the nodes have moved out of that water-earth polarity and have arrived in the fire-air polarity, there's been a significant shift just in the vibrations around us and the way people are interacting with each other.
Yeah, I would say that it's opened up a new karmic door for a lot of, especially relationships, because this is North Node in Libra. But I think that this is just like you say, on a general sense, holy cow, this is a huge shift in energy. And it really is, I would say, a little bit more empowering. It doesn't feel so sluggish. It feels like things are happening. We're all kind of being put in all these positions. And one thing about all these squares, and then in the middle of all that energy shifting in the nodes, oh my gosh, I don't know one person just sitting around, you know?
Yeah, I think that people who are resistant and are trying to dig in their heels and not go with change are really starting to recognize that they're going to get themselves into serious trouble. So they definitely are going to they're going to have to force themselves out of their lethargy. And you know, the nodes were setting in that mixture of earth and water, which is mud, and now they're in air and fire, which is holy Toledo. We've got a firestorm. You know, things are ready to really take off, and it's like a fire in a dry grass area. You know, you just see it consume everything very, very fast, and that seems to me the energy that we're feeling right now is this fast-moving fire. We're consuming things, but in a positive way. You know, if we're taking it in a gluttonous way, of course we're going to box ourselves in, but there's definitely a nice accelerated kind of energy going on here. By Monday, Tuesday, we're going to be seeing Venus get out of an air sign, which is not comfortable for Venus, and get into the depths of the ocean and rejoin Neptune in Pisces. And I'm seeing that as a very rich and gracious kind of energy. I think it's got that kind of an Epicurean feel to it. You are going to be noticing beauty. You're going to be noticing the softness of the clouds, the beauty of the sunset, the smile on the child's face. All of these elements, I think, next week are going to really become like 3D, Technicolor, surround sound, very vivid for us for a few days as we have this nice passage of Venus moving up to conjunct Neptune in Pisces.
Yeah, it can actually bring a very nice feeling inside, because it could, especially if you're connected with that energy of compassion and love and beauty in such a way that it makes it feel like God's touching things. Like that's Venus in Pisces. It's like God's hand is on it. And especially when it gets close to Neptune, it feels like God's got two hands on it. So it's like, wow, it almost can be more intense. But I really believe what this transit's doing is opening up, especially in these partnership roles, some really powerful spiritual influences, even more karmic energy, destiny energy. But I think that it's bringing also the signs that maybe there's a lot of signs that need to be shown. And this is also Venus, the planet of material goods, and more importantly, our spiritual understandings of our values. And I think our values need to be connected more with kind of a higher vibration, that we need to connect with people in this higher vibration, and start to take off our fantasies and build values and relationships based off this kind of higher aspect of soul. This is also with Mercury coming out of Pisces and then going into Aries, so there's that nice transitional exchange where the mind comes into Aries ready for some new starts, new beginnings, to engage in a lot of things and move with our heads in some directions.
Well, and I think also Aries, you know, is definitely our personal identity. It's our, you know, our ego state of consciousness. And when Mercury advances into that region, we're going to watch a lot of communication, a lot of dialogue start to emerge about what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? People are going to start asking their neighbors, their friends, their cousins, their brothers, their sisters, give me feedback, give me input. And on a negative vibration, this can show up as somebody who just talks about themselves ceaselessly. They're going to be in hyperdrive, so if you know somebody of that sort, You might want to kind of like avoid them for a few weeks here as Mercury moves through Aries. But nonetheless, it's really going to be an opportunity for us to have relevant discussion about this image of self that we're wearing in the material world, and perhaps getting some insights from those around us, or sharing our insights with others as to how we can refine ourselves, how we can bring ourselves to a higher level, how we can express ourselves more fully and reach out in a more loving way to the people in the world around us.
Yeah, I think that's what this kind of shift is. Mercury giving you the strength to speak up, the strength to talk about things, the strength to also understand what we want. I think Mercury coming into Aries really allows you to understand more clearly what the path is. But that Venus energy in Pisces allows you to emotionally connect with compassion to people. And I think it's a savior, because if Venus, I think, were to be in Aries in the middle of the cardinal crosses, and this is eclipse time, we are getting prepared for a huge eclipse here, I could see some really harsh energy maybe taking place. But it's almost like this Pisces energy is the lifesaver of the hand of God on every beat and situation and value system, and, you know, keeping those clouds looking good in the middle of tension.
Yeah, that is very much the way that this energy is manifesting. But I also think that we have to really look at the advance of Pluto, which is giving us that indicator that we are evolving to a much higher vibration than humanity has experienced in centuries and centuries and centuries. And so we're coming closer and closer to some kind of a paradigm shift that really has the power and the potential to be a step into that idea of ascension. You know, I don't think we're going to all of a sudden have like the celestial outcome that a lot of people imagine, where all of a sudden everybody is walking around emanating light. But I think that our own personal capacity to see the beauty in others and to see the truth of reality is really coming up to a very crucial period now of tumbling over, falling into that next process of the evolution of the human experience and the evolution of we as spiritual beings in our journey back to our celestial home. So it's going to be a good time, I think, for a lot of us.
And
the
that's
other
what
thing
this time's about, man. It's like this is what I would say this whole kind of ascension period was waiting for, was this big of amount of energy to come in. It's been waiting a long time.
It absolutely has. And, you know, it's interesting. We've got, of all the planets that's really kind of offline right now, we've got Mars, retrograde in Libra, and not really interacting with a lot of other planets right now. And how do we look at Mars? How do we identify Mars? Mars can be the great aggressor. Mars can be the one that moves into a situation, especially if it's interactive with Mercury, and it creates a spark that turns into World War III, you know, that turns into the big explosion that you're hoping to avoid in your life. And I think it's interesting that Mars right now is enough in limbo so that it's not prompting a lot of tense energy, and it's not confronting us with the anger that we would normally see coming out of this T-square that's going on in that major portion of the heavens right now.
Yeah, Mars is a big part of it. You can actually see Mars every night up in the sky, which has been really cool to see. And it is in a very weird position to be at. Libra is a weird spot for Mars, and a retrograde is already a weird spot for Mars, and a north node close to this really is signaling that I think that with everything going on and the pressure and everything, we must take our actions, our aggressions, our angers and everything, and find peace and find balance and use our strength to find inner harmony, and that it's possible. But it's going to take, I think, identifying with the correct energy now and stepping into new comfort zones, and, you know, letting go of these old way of doing things. And I think this Mars retrograde is bridging huge karma, because really When we get back next week, we'll be doing that lunar eclipse video. And guess what's right next to that lunar eclipse? Mars. So I think that even though this week Mars isn't highlighted too much, even though the sun will oppose Mars this week near the end, I think we have to kind of confront maybe some actions to take by the end of this week with sun opposing Mars. Like, it'll be right in front of you. Like, can you find peace? And this also has to do with relationships. Can you take the correct actions in relationships? Can you let anger be channeled correctly and not incorrectly? Because that lunar eclipse is going to highlight this, I think, really extremely, because it's going to be within, I think, about like 5 degrees. You know, it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah, it is going to be demanding attention when the eclipse rolls around, but I really like the almost benevolent energy I'm getting from Mars right now, because I do notice myself being very sensitive to, you know, all the dances going on within the heavens. But what are your now? You've just had a couple of earthquake experiences, and when I lived on the West Coast, both in Alaska and Seattle and San Francisco and LA, I loved earthquakes. For me, earthquakes are wonderful because, boom, you know, it happens. You're not sitting around waiting for it to happen. Then you clean up the mess and go on with your life. Whereas here in the Midwest, we have tornadoes. We get a tornado warning, a tornado watch. You know, you spend your whole day thinking about tornadoes. But what are you sensing coming up as far as Earth movement, Earth shifts, as we continue to watch this T-square grow?
You know what's crazy is there was actually, of course, we had a couple earthquakes here in LA, and then we had some earthquakes that are really big in Chile. We actually had an Alaska one trigger, and this is like all in the last like week and a half, 2 weeks. The one that got me the most was there was one up in Yellowstone, and I was thinking about all the magma that must be underneath the Pacific plate, you know, and how really it's almost like a big zit, and that zit head is Yellowstone, because that is like the biggest. And there's all those volcanoes in Northern California and Oregon and into Idaho and into, you know, Montana, that, you know, I think that the Earth is going through some really big transformational energy as well. Like the Earth's going through an upgrade as our souls. We're all part of this. And, you know, I mean, I've been a little concerned, but I'm not too tripping out. You know, I think it's just part of the growing pains of a shift of consciousness on the planet. But I think that the universe is trying to wiggle its way to accept this change and not, you know, go too crazy. So it needs to release. This is definitely release. I'm sure people have headaches right now, are feeling weird energy in the body. I mean, I just felt here in the last couple of days that Sun-Pluto square, like, it can feel a little dark and a little like Plutonian. You know, Plutonian can almost feel like nuclear energy too. You know, there's this intensity that's causing all of us to release the past and be willing to, I think, just move forward in our lives and not let the past dictate so much of where we move forward in anymore. And I think same thing's going for Earth. So Earth's shaking off its energy, you know?
Exactly, and it's reconstituting itself. You know, that's what I find fascinating about the way that all of the action occurs globally, and how you can correspond it to the movement within the heavens, because it's like the heavens are saying, okay, Earth, you and your population and your consciousness, you need to refine yourself a little bit more. You need to, you know, put a little more pressure here, let off some steam over there. So we are in a very, very nice and exciting and dynamic time. And some people may get caught in the upheaval, but we all know that, you know, there is no end to life. There is merely change, transformation, alteration, and ultimately re-emergence. So it is a very dynamic time, not only for we as individuals, but for the planet we live on too.
And love is still possible. This week the moon is in Leo, trining all the stuff in Aries. And no matter all this pressure and all this crazy stuff and all the changes, I guarantee you're going in your life, because this is definitely big change city this month. The moon is in Leo, which is very well aspected for most of the week. And I think it shows you that in your path that you're choosing, in the directions that the universe has kind of pressured you to take action in, you can find love, you can find happiness still, and you have to.
Yeah, that's the gift from all of the experiences of living on a small planet in a remote corner of the universe. And for me, now, when I was down in Tennessee last week, I in fact got involved in a new relationship, and now I have a new significant other in my life. This is a Tennessee black bear
Wow.
that has become very intimate with me, and we're forecasting some amazing things for the future, and it's all built around the idea of love. So life is good, and I think we would probably take a look at the cards now and see what the tarot has to say about the upcoming week for us.
Yeah, let's see what it says.
Well, first card up. I do get this kind of an energy around that tail end of the moon moving through Gemini. A little bit, you know, we're all feeling restless, but there's still a need to be a little bit conservative as we move into the weekend. You don't want to just, you know, rip off your clothes and go running through the streets as the moon moves out of Gemini into Cancer and starts to proliferate all of that watery energy for the weekend. And this weekend, in order to be able to really maximize your life experience, we have the Five of Cups, spilled wine. So before you even think about approaching the weekend, you need to do a little bit of inner work and release all of your regret, your anger, your frustration. You know, we have this nice invitation, and I would associate that with, again, the air energy. We've got, you know, the moon that's going to be tailing off in Gemini. It's going to be in trine to Mars, and that a lot of times can mean, you know, time to let go of old wounds, old hurts, old sorrows. Then as we move into the weekend and the coming week, we have this beautiful card of balance and harmony. You can see this guy has got money coming in, money going out. This is a Six of Coins, and it gives us the image of attaining a balance, living in expectation of our needs being filled, and having a sense of being in harmony with the flow of the universe. And I think that's what we want to carry with us into next week, is to anchor ourselves in that sense of being surrounded by supportive energy, being in harmony with the flow of the universe, and even if minor disruptions occur, not allowing them to alter our, you know, our course, and not allowing them to interfere with our upward journey that we're all working on. As we move into this coming week, beautiful. We've got the Strength card, and we are going to be able to build strength from that activity of the moon, at first in trine to all the watery energy, and then moving into Leo and connecting with our heart, fourth chakra energy. So a nice week of building inner strength, reclaiming our courage, recovering our sense of destiny, and how we are participating in that destiny. And we end the week on a very interesting note. We've got the Moon card coming up, reflection, contemplation. So by the end of the week, I think a lot of people are going to be thinking about all the different elements in their lives and how those elements have gone through transformation and change. And they're going to be processing a lot of this stuff that's been bubbling up from the subconscious. So overall, I think we've got a very powerful week of healing and reorganization, and giving ourselves some of the good things that we perhaps have been withholding from ourselves in the past.
Wow, really powerful cards, kind of all over the place too, which I dig, because I think this week is a perception all over the place. We got planets shifting signs, and the universe is getting prepared for big eclipses. It's getting prepared for big cardinal cross energy. It's getting prepared for big stuff. So this isn't a week of your perceptions needing to, I think, kind of change here and kind of go all over the place to prepare yourself. I think the cards really went through things very well.
Yes, and it is going to be a very Uranian week. you know, that Uranus energy is really going to flex itself right now. It's going to be fun to watch that. So overall, I think it's going to be a good week. I don't think we're going to see a lot of people spinning too wildly out of control. And for those who are consciously trying to move with the forces around them, we're going to see people evolving. We're going to see people taking the next step and moving up to a higher way of living.
And I'd watch relationships this week. Venus in Pisces coming close to Neptune, a moon in Leo, a Mercury coming into Aries. I think the unpredictable thing is, wow, there could be some really powerful relationship things happening this week, and I would say a lot of positive things. But also, one thing about Venus and Pisces is there could be a lot of letting go, ones that aren't on the vibration anymore, that you must raise the vibration now in your partnerships. So
it is going to be an exciting week, and I think that, you know, our next communication is going to be about a lot of tense energy, which is the week following this. So I think people need to take this, you know, this period of somewhat calm, somewhat soothing, embracing energy, and really bathe in it, enjoy it, and exploit it if you can.
And it's good to be back, you know. It's good to have us back, and it was good to talk with you today, Chris.
Yes, and I'm glad that all of your adventures are turning into a very dynamic cycle that you're stepping into. So it's going to be fun to watch both of us pursue our various interests right now. I think that we're both on a very beautiful upward spiral.
Yes, we are. And you know what? I think it says a lot about staying on the path, being aware, being compassionate, and always remaining positive, no matter what you see happening in this life or what's going on. Positivity and believing in that positivity and believing in yourself can take you anywhere you want to go.
It absolutely can. And it can remove you from the places that you don't want to be. That's the best part.
Yeah, and you know what? This is a good way to end things. This cardinal cross is trying to, for most people, remove you out of a lot of bad and negative and toxic situations. It could feel like your life's falling down. But what it is you're giving the opportunity to rise to the occasion of what's better. So.
Exactly. Well, it's wonderful chatting with you, David, and I look forward to our next connection in 7 days.
Yeah, when we talk back, it'll be our eclipse special. We got a big eclipse coming, and this one will be a total eclipse, and this one you will be able to see in America. So we'll definitely talk about that one.
It's going to be awesome.
All right, buddy. I will see you next week.
Yeah, you have a great week. Bye.
All right, bye.